Insanity, whatever happened to humanity?
The Batman is a 2022 American superhero film that has been produced and published by DC Films and Warner Brothers Studios. Batman, who is also called the Dark Knight himself, who has been fighting crime in Gotham City for over 2 years, suddenly uncovers corruption while pursuing the Riddler, a serial killer who targets Gotham's elite members who are responsible for the terror of the city. I thought this movie was great. Fantastic. And without a doubt, one of the best Batman films out there. In my opinion, I think it is the best Batman film out there. It has some problems. Now, I don't want to. Now, when people say the best, people assumedly think that is the best film in all characteristics, in every single step of the word. But no film, no project, nothing is perfect. There's always going to be some flaws. There's always going to be some nitpicks in there. And this film has some, to the point where it stands out. And I agree with critics and certain people who reviewed this film and point out certain things that I can relate to and roughly can address with this review. But as I dig deeper, as I look more forward to certain reviews and certain critics that talked about this film and said certain things about the film that I need to address, there are certain people that love this film, give this film good praise, and hate this film. But at the same time, how many people that is watching this review actually like this film? 20, 30, 35%, 40%, we don't know. How many people was actually pleased with this film? We don't know the exact answer. But at the same time, by this film being made in this certain form of different creative aspects for us to be entertained, you're also running the risk for certain people, certain critics, and certain fans who love Batman to be pissed off with the certain differences that you included in this film. With the young aspect of Batman, Robert Pattinson playing a role, and by different types of color aspects being played as a character. With me, honestly, I don't think it matters who play what. I go by how they act and how they perform. So, by me saying this is where the criticism comes in hard, because I looked at some critics and they have given this movie crazy scores. Now look, it's your judgment, it's your call, it's how you it's how you judge the film. But I've seen people give this movie bad reviews over stupid things, saying that Batman doesn't smile in the film. Look, bitch, if you was in Batman and Bruce Wayne's shoes, you wouldn't smile either. But then it gets even more crazy when I looked at scores. And again, I don't mind people giving movies like this, or any movie in general, a low score, but you need to have pinpoint reason of why you're giving movies like this a low score. But come on now, when you watch this film, you tell me, does this movie actually deserves 2s and 0s and Fs? Seriously. And I take offense for those fucking assholes who don't know what a 1 out of 10 film is really like.
What's this? Climax. The reviews look pretty good. Can't never go wrong with Rotten Tomatoes, right?
What the fuck did I just watch? Seriously. What the hold on. Sorry. What is this? That's why I have to put a foot in Rotten Tomatoes' ass. This curse you. This movie does not deserve that big rating. I think you was paid off. That's how I could be wrong. I could be wrong. This isn't the first, but this is not the first movie I've seen you gave a big review of, and it was trash. This movie fails in every aspect. It fails with the character development. It fails with the story. It fails with the cinematography. It fails with the music. I had a headache watching this film. I was actually sick watching this movie. That never happened before. All these movies that I've watched, this one was the one that made me feel nauseous. But let's just face it here. When this film has these type of things that I mentioned, you're running the risk of people getting out of their bubbles and not accepting the differences of this film. No movie that's based on the comics or novels or mangas, whatever you name it, whatever you call it, is going to be 100% accurate to the books. Because even Stan Lee said it himself. The reason why they change things up in the films is because they want to improve things that they regret that they haven't changed in the comics or in the novels. And with Batman, they have changed these aspects, and that's where the mixture of criticism come in. But I have to give this a warning to people who want to watch the film to stay away from critics like this, because this is where the hatred of DC, no matter what good film they make, to step out of that negative criticism comes in. That's when the racism critics comes in, because people do be in their bubbles of just being skeptical of being a stereotype. If you're curious to watch it, watch it. And if you want to hear my opinion about it, stay tuned for it. Now, going back to what I said about this film is the best Batman film, I have to agree with this, because by me watching the film twice, I have to say that the people who is in charge of making this film has improved a lot of things of this film that basically the Batman films lacked. And that is basically the chemistry and the creativity of the characters other than Batman himself. Now, honestly, they have put a lot of good aspects on Batman's character that's played by Robert Pattinson. And I have to say, when Robert Pattinson was scheduled to play the role of Batman, I was skeptical. But you know what? Honestly, when it comes to DC choosing iconic roles to make people play these characters, 75% of the time, I'll be on edge. It all started with Heath Ledger. When I found out that Heath Ledger was going to be Joker, I was like, what? Are you serious? But look how that turned out. Same thing with Gal Gadot. When I found out that Gal Gadot was going to be Wonder Woman, and I really wanted someone else to play the role, like Gina Carano or at least Samantha Robinson, I got to get her out of my mind. Look how that turned out. And then we have Ben Affleck as Batman. Now, I have to admit that Ben Affleck is the best threatening and imposing Batman. I agree with this. But at the same time, when it comes to the delivery of the packaging of the emotional, the dramatic, the pacing aspect of Batman's character, I'm going to have to say, Robert Pattinson has killed this role. In fact, what I like about actors on this film is that it's how they perform. Robert Pattinson, I believed him as Bruce Wayne, and I believed him as Batman. Now, people may disagree with him being Bruce Wayne, saying that there was not enough material as Bruce Wayne on this film, and it was a brief Bruce Wayne moment. But I understand the producers and the creators' perspective, because we've been there and done that with Bruce Wayne. His family got murdered, and how he became who he became. So the pacing of his character was not adequate enough for people to be entertained with him being Bruce Wayne. I get that. But the reason why I gave it a pass is because what this film wants to be more focused on is how he's going to react to the death of his family when he becomes Batman in the process. And I loved it. I thought his Batman performance was great. It was very believable, realistic, and honestly, relatable. Because the way how he conducts his journey, the way how he goes around enemies, the way how he just do things, is out of frustration, out of hatred, and at the same time out of depression. Because Bruce Wayne does what I didn't expect for him to do, what he should have done, and he has a journal. And I even said this when I was doing my mental therapy sessions on my YouTube channel, that the most important thing when you're going through a traumatic sequence of losing a loved one, or just trying to live life and you're just at that brink of not understanding how life works, you need to have a journal. And the producers and the directors understand this. And people was a little bit disappointed of the fact that they didn't show the death of his family on this film. They didn't show that, but they showed you his sorrow of how he felt about his parents in a very creative way by watching another kid lose his family. And you saw how Batman was looking at the kid because he felt what the kid was going through. That dark road that he doesn't want to ever visit, but he has to keep visiting it so he can remember his family's legacy, so he can continue on saving people in Gotham from the terrors of the people who was making things worse for everybody else. The pacing of Batman was great, but everybody else who has played these characters, like Zoe Kravitz, and everybody else who has played, I can't even say side characters, everybody has done a great job on this film to the point where they wasn't side characters. Everybody has played a small role of me believing that this is their movie as well. Now, as for the characters that I mentioned, we have Zoe Kravitz, who plays as Selina Kyle, which is Catwoman. Now, the debate of her character is mixture. Now, honestly, I'm gonna have to be honest with this, with her character, and people may disagree, but just try to understand where I'm coming from with this. I think by Zoe Kravitz playing as Selina Kyle, I had no problem with it. Zoe Kravitz, she had the great size for Catwoman. She wasn't tall, she was short, and I've always wanted a Catwoman to be a short character, and Zoe Kravitz fit that perfectly. Short, very, 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 very slick with the delivery of her character, and they even added a dramatic aspect of her character as well, what made me get more entertained with her character. She's not this person that disappears in a fucking film and then you barely see her. When you see her, she plays a major part, not just to her character, but also to Batman also. So when things get intertwined with them both, they have to try to know each other by understanding their motivations and understanding what they need to do in order for things to be better for the both of their aspects. Now, when people tell me that Zoe Kravitz's character was dull, she disappeared a lot in the film, she didn't do much with her delivery, she was boring, she didn't really fit the mold of Catwoman, I was confused by that. And I was asking people, are you talking about Zoe Kravitz or Anne Hathaway's Catwoman? Because Anne Hathaway's Catwoman was basically what you just mentioned. Zoe Kravitz, she is the opposite. And even with height, and I love Anne Hathaway, I do, but I've always felt like Anne Hathaway, she had no iconic creativity to her character as Catwoman. She didn't really sneak to defeat enemies, she just walked right to them. She didn't really do nothing when it comes to stealth. And when she stole things, she did it right in front of people, disappeared in the fucking film. And then she was too tall for the role. I was thinking to myself, is this Catwoman or Cat Leopard? Or Leopard Woman or something like that. I just felt like she was too tall for the role. And at the same time, she didn't pull no stunts or anything memorable. She just came and went because they felt like by this being the last Batman of the Christopher Nolan series, let's add in Catwoman. That's how I felt, that's how she was. But Zoe Kravitz, you can't watch this film and say that she was worse. Honestly. They even added a crazy twist to her character too. But not just with her, with every single character. Even the Riddler that is played by Paul Dano. Now, I loved his character. I believed this character. But honestly, the Riddler was never really, how to say this? He was never really a villain when it comes to how he did things. He just wanted to test Batman in an intelligent aspect. But what I liked about this Riddler is that they made him more drowned into the society of this generation. Made him be aware of just how crooked and how things are, especially in Gotham. So he used his intelligence and his wits to manipulate the media and letting them know that the people that you praise, the people that you worship, the people that you think that is protecting the city are the main ones that is making it worse. And all he wanted to do was just let Batman be aware of this. So technically he's not a bad guy, but the way how he did things was not by law. So there was basically headbutting between the two. I'm doing what you're doing. Difference is I'm killing them off. And I liked that about his character because when they explained his motives, you don't want to agree with him, but you at least don't want to say it out loud. And honestly, I do agree with this character. And I don't think no one could have done his role better, in my opinion. I think his role was great. It was believable. And again, just like with Robert Pattinson's character, I did not feel the acting ability of his character. I really felt like he was the Riddler all the time I saw him. So just to sum this up, this is the reason why I think this is the best Batman, because every Batman plays their parts of what is their major strengths of the Batman character himself. Now, going to this generation of Batman favorite critiques, my first favorite Batman was always going to be the Christian Bale Batman, because he was great in all aspects. Intelligent ratio, I loved him as Bruce Wayne just as much as I loved him as Batman, because they show good aspects, two sides of the coin perfectly. But what I didn't like about his Batman was the fact that there was no sense, like, no matter how strong the enemy was, he could have took them down without any help. And the side characters, that's where the side characters fall flat. There was no side characters on the Batman films other than Catwoman, but I felt like when she saved Batman, it was out of him having his emotions get the better of him. That was basically it. But I felt like if he still was more motivated to what he was, all that would have been changed. They just did that because they knew that she had to have a good scene where people would give her praise. That's basically it, But I felt like the enemies fell into his traps, and he figured everything out. So the side characters, Gordon and everybody else, that's why everybody was saying we need a Robin on the Christopher Nolan Batmans. Why? Batman seems to do fine without him. So what's the point of putting him in there? Then you got the Ben Affleck Batman that is more threatening, more imposing, the best threatening and Batman imposement in the Batman genres. He has a height of Batman. He has a build of Batman. But at the same time, he was lacking certain things too when it comes to him having faith into the system and just him killing people. I didn't believe his Batman character. But at the same time, we have this Batman here. I believed his Batman. His Batman is relatable and believable. And at the same time, by him lacking these aspects, it gives the other side characters a reason for them to be on the Batman film to help him out. And it shows you that Batman is not perfect. All I'm saying is this. They made Batman, the Christopher Nolan Batman, too perfect. They made Ben Affleck Batman too flawed. They made this Batman just as right. They made him great. They made him good. But at the same time, he was rough around the edges. But those edges was simply smoothed out by the side characters playing a role for us to like them even more. That's what I liked about this film. Now, let's talk about the things I don't like. The things I don't like is the fact that this film wants you to get into the brink of Batman's believement of us fearing him. And it works. It really does. In the beginning of the film. In the beginning of the film, we are introduced with the narration of Batman himself, played by Robert Pattinson, narrating us of how he is feared across Gotham, how everybody is afraid of him, how he can be in each shadow in every single corner. Every time they show the bat signal, it's not a sign, it's a warning. And I was pulled in. I was literally cleansing my sheet in the bed. I'm like, oh my God, I was fearing the enemies. So I was thinking to myself, how are they going to reveal Batman to these enemies when they finally show him? It was a disappointment. I felt like by you giving us this type of energy, this type of motivation for us to fear him, and then all he does is just walk in front of the enemies. You had the advantage to play a good horror aspect of Batman that all the other Batman films lacked. The enemies fear Batman. Show us that fear. They showed us this, but they didn't express it. Batman just come out the shadows and start fighting people. He doesn't use anything when it comes to stealth. In fact, what made me even more mad is enemies are afraid of him. Okay, I get that. So why every time when the enemies see Batman, they laugh at his outfit? They laugh at him. They don't take him seriously. When he goes to the bar in the beginning of the film, every single time they see Batman, they crack jokes about him. And that's when he beats the shit out of him. So where's all the fear coming from? The fear comes from when you don't see Batman. I get it. But this film takes place 2 years after he became Batman. So you would think they'll be aware of his presence by now. You would think that people would take pictures and show people how he really looks. But the thing is the delivery. How are you going to execute Batman's stealthness and the way how he take down enemies? And I thought that was a flaw. If I don't be pulled in by the threatening and imposement of Batman, I can't take his threatening and imposement seriously. And then another thing is the lack of intelligence of how Batman presents himself when it comes to him using the limitation of his gadgets. Now, again, this movie was made in 2 years. I mean, it's based on 2 years after he became Batman. So certain things that he does, when it comes to him jumping off of cliffs, he gets nervous, and then when he jumps off, he makes mistakes. I get that. But people may openly debate and say that, well, this is his first time doing it. Give me a fucking break. This movie is 2 years after he became Batman. You telling me he's been doing shit on the floor since then? You can't tell me that has not been one emergency that he had to at least not take the stairs. He had to at least jump off of something. So I felt like that was poorly executed. I felt like his threatening and his imposing Batman was not, it didn't buy me into it. What they should have did in that scene was, instead of him coming out of the shadows in the beginning of the film, they should have had a scene where they was hearing, because they do good with his footsteps. The big Michael Myers footsteps. They did good with that. But instead of him revealing himself, what they should have did was, he should have just stayed there. Had one of the guys investigate. The guys end up screaming. Everybody start running and breaking for it. And then by the panic, taking control of their mental. One of them falls on the floor. He tries to get up. He looks up. Batman grabs him. And then, he picks them off. And then as this happens, we get more and more and more engaged to his character. That's how you do Batman in the fear aspect. And I think these motherfuckers who made Batman has not played the Batman Arkham games. If you play that and you see how you can do this shit, then trust me, this would have been a lot better film. So, at the end of the day, this film is not perfect. It's not perfect. But I feel like if you like the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, you're going to love this film. And that's another thing I forgot to address. That this film's not rated R. And it was very close to being rated R. So all I got to say is, by this film that has a lot of good diversity, when it comes to different people playing different iconic roles, it's still doing a good job on them. And then just pay attention to what people are saying when it comes to them criticizing films like this. Because when it's open with diversity, people may talk shit about this film out of hatred of the race culture. I'm just being honest. This is planet Earth. This is the real life. Okay? So I'm just saying, if you're still curious to check it out, watch it. It's not a bad film. It is rough around the edges, but at the same time, it is acceptable. It is a great Batman film. It may not be the best for some people, but with me, it's the best one. It's the best one in my opinion. And if you don't want to say it's the best one, all right, you can say that. You can say that, but it's still a good film, no matter what anyone tells you. Okay, I'm gonna have to give the Batman a B-. I wasn't gonna review this film honestly, because I like to stay away from mainstream movies, because I don't do that well with my channel. The last movie that I reviewed that was a big blockbuster hit was Spider-Man No Way Home. That was the only one that I reviewed. I like to stay away from shit like that, because I feel like if you're gonna watch a review of movies like this, you want to watch mainstream critics. So why the fuck, who am I? You know what I'm saying? But I feel like the shit that I've been seeing with the critics, I had to address it. I had to talk about it, because this is nothing but this is nothing but blind rage. And then by these critics being mainstream, by these critics having an open eye of knowing how to manipulate people and saying things, because intelligence, they're basically Riddlers themselves. They're basically Riddlers themselves. How they know how the media works. I am literally trying to snap you out of it and trying to let you know, look, if you are not against color and you are just strictly about the acting and how good the movie is, then you're going to like this film. But it's also debatable too. How big are you when it comes to DC? How big are you when it comes to comic book films and films that's based on novels? If you're heavily based on films like that, then you may not like Batman. You may not even like the Joker. You may not even like none of the Batman films if you want to play that game. Because again, none of those films matches the productivity of what these books and comic books really delivers to you. But what I like about this film is that they really wanted to focus more of the realistic aspect of how Batman will become if his emotions really play a huge part. Because all the Batman films, they lack that, including the Ben Affleck films, because they didn't really explain too much of how he became how he was. They wanted us to figure it out, but at the same time, even though after we figured it out, it still didn't explain his recklessness. And at the same time, it didn't buy me in. With this one, it bought me in, but it wasn't the way how they portrayed his horror aspects. It's a slap on the face. It's a slap on the face. And honestly, false advertising, in my opinion. The more I talk about this film, the more I want to give it a lower rating. Because I feel betrayed. I hate when they show stuff like this, and then when they give us little delivery, I feel like I'm lied to. But that's all I have to say for today. I spent too long with this review. Please stay tuned for more upcoming reviews and videos headed your way. This is Hugo, your critic teacher. You guys have a good day.